Simple introduction, who you are, what you do, and yeah, what you doing in Dallas.
All right, so just move here. So I'm a licensed therapist. I'm licensed in the state of Texas and Illinois.
Period.
I do bariatric consultant and plastic surgery consultant for a company called Pop Recovery Systems, as well as I do a bunch of webinars and I do speaking engagements, just kind of promoting the idea of weight loss and the aspect of the benefits of the bariatric community as a collective. Consistency has always been a rhythm of my entire life now.
It's very apparent.
True.
I
Yeah.
know him, so I know the consistency is T. How did football shape you as a person, both positively and negatively? Negatively.
All right, on a positive end, it helped me understand that you do need a team in life, that you can't do it alone. Football, I knew that the man next to me knew his position, knew his job, and that I had to trust him that he'll take care of his job for me to take care of mine,
Mm.
right? And just have 100% faith regardless of each play because you're going to be let down at times in plays, but you have to understand that the rhythm is how bonded are you in trusting that man next to you.
Mm.
Uh, the negatives about it, when you can't play no more, you ain't know no more.
Mm.
No one knows you. You're a blip sometimes. You sometimes have people be like, I remember this, I remember that, and that's cool. But uh, a lot of times it's this idea of like we had this hope or dream for you to be this. Now what happened?
How did that impact the weight gain?
So my therapy, I didn't like go to a formal therapist. My therapy was my supervisor at the time. I was with him for about 8 years, and he gave me a lot of life lessons about just identity.
Mm.
His biggest piece was about existentialism, and existentialism really works on purpose and who you are and the identity of what you want to do. So, because I didn't know who I was outside of football, he helped me understand how to build an identity outside of the things that are titles or labels.
So, do you feel like you relate a lot of the therapy that you got for yourself to your clients?
Yeah, I don't believe therapy is just the aspect of knowing a theoretical orientation, applying it for evidence-based purposes, and then you see a person progress. There has to be an input of who you are into it too. Your swagger of your identity, and that collaboration is creating that therapeutic alliance with your client.
Now, did you do therapy for your weight?
I did not.
Okay.
I did it all on my own. That's why I did a bunch of research going into it because I knew
Mm.
I didn't have access to therapy for the weight loss through my insurance.
So this is the thing about the surgery aspect. In any either bariatric or plastic surgery, you have a psyche valve, and
Hmm.
that's it.
Wow.
There's not individual therapy, and there's not like continuous therapy after that. It really needs to happen because if I'm losing a lot of weight and I'm changing my entire identity,
Hmm.
right, there's some relationships I'm gonna have to unpack after I lose this weight,
Hmm.
right? And that's the thing. A lot of people don't have that access, and they lose sight of who they are and the journey. And return some return back to who they knew they were, just because it was comfortable.
And do you feel like your weight gain was more than just football? It was also tied to depression.
So it was tied to depression. It was tied to my relationship with food from family. It was tied to sexual abuse. Uh, Growing up, having to experience that, I wanted to be the biggest person in the room so I can intimidate people to avoid touching me.
Wow. How was that in your household? How was that processing it as an adult?
So no one knew. Um, I didn't tell my mom until I was like 28.
Mm.
Um,
How was her reaction to it?
Again, feeling like she couldn't protect me.
Yeah.
That was crushing for her. But the reality is, it's like it happened. Um, I hate that it happened to me. I forgive that it happened or occurred.
Hmm.
So I don't necessarily let it be who I am. I don't give it that much breath. I have more acceptance of it per se. And a lot of people struggle with that aspect of acceptance. That why me? Because they're asking millions of questions of why did this happen to me? Why do you choose me? All these things aspects. But sometimes it's aspect of you were just available. And
Mm.
that's the thing that occurred with me. I was just available. I was and it happened, and I grew from it.
Wow. Okay, so what do you say was your turning point then going into the surgery?
So my turning point was the whole in and out of going to the hospital. 2019, I had pneumonia, and I remember going into the hospital, staying there for another 3 days to get my fluids back up and make sure my lungs didn't have fluid in them. And I was like, man, I'm tired of this.
Mhm.
And that's when I just started going walking every day. And then I had to go to the hospital one more time, and that was in May of 2020 when I had COVID. And that time I was in the hospital for 14 days, and I thought I was gonna die. Uh, but then I took that opportunity, and my boss, and this is where my supervisor, which I love him to death, but he gave me a very hard question to answer.
Mhm.
He's like, I can see you excel exponentially in your career, right? But your personal life is affecting your professional life,
Mm.
right? You know, he told me, he was like, no one's gonna want to see you with an oxygen tank, right? He's like, by the age of 33, you'll probably die,
Wow.
right? He's like, if you were to go to the hospital one more time with me, I was probably gonna put you on short-term disability, right? Difficult thing to say,
Mhm.
right? Hard thing to process. I remember getting in the car mad and crying, like, I can't believe he talked to me that way. But the reality is, he knew that I was worth more than what I was putting forth into myself,
Mm.
right? And he felt comfortable enough to speak to me that way and me to respond the way I would.
Mm. When you were on the oxygen tank, how was your family responding to your house? Where do you feel like you had support or encouragement?
So it was just normal. Like
Mm.
it was normalized an aspect of going to the hospital or being sick or being overweight because these were the functional aspects of being overweight. My
Mm.
entire family was obese and element of like, oh well, you got water retention in your leg, that's normal with your weight, or oh, you have an asthma attack, it's normal because you're gonna be winded out of breath. I remember my mom, because I was so big and we had moved to Texas for 2 years, she took me out of gym because of the fear that I pass out. And there was that concept of sheltering and trying to protect me, which then in the event it hindered me in the long run because then I felt like she would always protect me from things.
Wow. Ooh, this is heavy. So, okay, so let's get into the actual surgery. So, D, what's your pain level number?
0.
0. Corby, yours is?
It was a 10.
It was a 10. All right. So, how did you mentally prepare for it, like for yourself? Like how did the process go for you? Like, and because you're an advocate of it. So obviously like there was something about it that you just like how did you see it as the most successful thing that needed to happen?
So I had to mentally prepare myself by believing what I was saying, and believing in the action. So instead of overthinking the entire journey, I would say, I'm gonna go walk today. And I wouldn't like think about how my legs would feel and things like that. Many people's problems is they overthink the aspect of what they're going to do
Mm,
so that they don't do it. They're frozen, they're stuck in it.
mhm.
When I have the thought, I act on it, I do it. When I do it, then I know the reward of the relief I get from it. And that was my entire process. And this kind of where the mantra of my life that I created was, my consistency outweighs my doubts. Every time I showed up being consistent, it chipped away at the doubts I had about myself.
D, I want to go to you and say, what do you think? How do you think that it was just powerful for you in terms of just after the surgery?
Um, One, it took away my crutch. Like I wasn't an emotional eater,
Mm,
but I cannot describe how uncomfortable food becomes. It almost becomes your enemy. Like you need
wow.
it. But for me, eating was the painful part. Like
Mhm,
food processed so differently
mm,
and it hurt. And it was just like I would run to it for comfort and then I would regret it. So it was like stripped away from me. So then I had to find something else.
mm,
And so in that, then I had to self-reflect, spend time with myself. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna be running back and forth to the fridge. So be alone with my thoughts. Go in the gym, be alone with my thoughts. Move my body, be alone with my thoughts. So it was just a lot of rebuilding a relationship with myself because I didn't have it with food anymore. So I had so much time left over after that. So hopefully
nice.
that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I love that. So what would you say is your biggest victory, physically, mentally, Corby after the surgery? What, because you know, like you do a lot on social media as far as content, and basically your reel is me being 800 pounds and to where I am now. And people see it like in a snippet. And so, like, visually, it looks very quick, and it's like, oh, like that's the physical part is the big victory, but also mentally, like bringing both aspects in there. What do you say would be your biggest victory?
So I'll tag along to what Dee was saying earlier about the aspect of not using the scale to measure my success anymore,
Mm,
right?
I do not have a scale in my house. I do, I do use the what is it? It's the how you look in your clothes.
Mhm.
And that is where I feel like, okay, I lost some weight because this fits better if it's the way I want it to fit. But when I'm looking on the scale, I'm like, I know I only ate a salad yesterday. I just know I didn't gain more weight. Like what? But yeah, go ahead, continue.
So it's the aspect of that part, right? Feeling good about what you're wearing, or feeling good about yourself, right? Because your body is just your physical outlook. Your soul is deeper,
Mm,
right? It's
mm,
the idea of feeding and pouring into your soul. That's what I learned.
mhm,
And that's where the aspect of if I do things I believe in, that's feeding my soul. I'm being having more nutrients in the actions I do to feed that versus with the substance I got from food.
mm. So what inspired you to be an advocate for it?
Well, I felt that one, there isn't a lot of people, well, in the community of men, there's only 20%
Wow.
in the bariatric community. We're a very small window of men who have it, and a lot of men don't talk about it.
Mm,
Like it's
underground.
an underground. Like I know there's full-fledged athletes that will never discuss it and will say I did this, and I did this. I was like, all right, man, that's cool, but I know that you did something else because the drasticness of it,
Mm.
and it's the shame.
It is well, people on Ozempic, they do not want to tell you that they're like they want to keep it such like a secret. And it's like if you don't share your story, then how is somebody gonna be inspired to also go down that path where they're seeking their happiness? How can people like learn more about like the bariatric community? Because I know you all do conferences, you do a lot of speaking events. What do you think is the best way to find information about it?
So I would say there's Bariatric Society. I got a guy named Chris and his wife Rissa. They host retreats on bariatric community. They actually are part of a meetup that's coming in December. I want to not December, March 8th. That I'll be attending, and that's with one of the bariatric surgeons I know, Dr. Joe Cribbins, and then also Berry Nation. They have a app that have support groups. They have doctors. They have therapists like me in there doing different kind of conversations. And then there also is Pop Recovery Systems. And again, they have the groups. They have nutrition coach, fitness coach. They have mental health coaches, and they'll help even structure getting it to be more affordable for you for either plastic or bariatric surgery. So I think reaching out to these spaces, there's also this I know this lady named Brenda that does Berry Connect, and that is part of ProCare. And that's where the vitamins come to play because people don't know that after weight loss surgery, you're gonna have to stay on vitamin for the rest of your life.
Oh wow.
You have to take a vitamin.
How many vitamins we talking?
So it's one pill that has all of it.
It's like a multivitamin.
Yeah, but I take multiple because of the drasticness of my size change.
Mm.
Right? I take turmeric, I take vitamin D, I take a multivitamin, I take it all because I know the replenishment it's doing in my body.
Nice. So you just got married.
Hmm.
I mentioned that he's my brother-in-law. How was dating in relationships prior to having the surgery versus having the surgery? Because I know the confidence is probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah, I'll say this. One thing I'm glad is that I met your sister before the weight loss surgery, right?
Big Tam.
Right. I'm so my wife, I appreciate and I adore her because she's seen it all.
Mm,
Uh, but in our year of where we were together in Chicago and being in the same space, she was riding with me. She made sure that I had my my little 1 ounce tunas that I can have, or made sure I have protein jello. She
Do I
was
see you shake your
like, he already knows. Like, these are the things that she poured into me, and I was like, man, I appreciate it because man, I couldn't do it by myself, right? And she just was along the journey. And then when she moved to New York, right, we kind of like amicably parted ways for a bit. And the thing was this: one, she was starting in a new city. Two, I was starting a new life. And the element is there's two drastic changes happening in our life. And how can we find a rhythm of consistency with all this drastic change?
Hmm.
And that's kind of where we learned until like I want to say 2 years, we got back into finding a rhythm again, and we were like, we're gonna make it work, right? I would fly out there, she would fly to me, right? I still, when we broke up, she don't like to tell this, but
What's go ahead, tell it.
I gave flowers every month,
She did. And
every
I
month.
can tell you that I knew they were getting delivered every month because it was 1 month where she was traveling and she had to tell the concierge, like, I don't know what she was calling you at the time. She was like, my friend, he's sending flowers. And my mama was like, why you telling him to send the flowers? She like, it's on a monthly subscription. So like they just come. And people are always like, you could get tired of that. I was like, first of all, I would never get tired of that. And she didn't get tired of that. So while she's still here, but the consistency that you also had in that situation, that part of your life, it also transpired into your dating life as well. So, and I know she definitely saw that. Let's say so. Corbin was popping his big one when he was trying to get married. I love that. What do you? What's next for you? Are you still trying to lose more weight?
So I want to lose more weight just because I want to be physically healthier. I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
My spirit is good. I believe in myself. I want to, on a bigger scale, get the bariatric community for men per se to be how can I put it, a brotherhood of some sort. I want to meet people before they have surgery, get them connected with a guy who already has surgery, and then walk them through the steps.
It
Like,
sounds like an app.
yeah, like being a coach in some aspect. And then have the men who already had years of experience, right? Talk to people who've had 10 years of experience. And the idea is just find mentorship throughout that same process. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it's hey, I see my psychiatrist or I see the psychologist do my meeting, and then I live my life and don't involve anything else with my life as far as what the bariatric community has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The community is such a big and powerful space. I definitely feel like there needs to be more involvement with just people who don't understand, like even family members having like because I know I used to work in addictions. I know they have Al-Anon for family members where they'll have family members understand the addiction of alcohol or addiction of
Mm-hmm.
drugs. They need to have classes for family members to understand the addiction of food or the relationship afterwards for someone in the bariatric community. Because you're gonna have the moments like I remember, perfect example, my mother. I always bring her up because I love her. Right?
I love your mama too.
She she I just failed a test to become a licensed therapist at the time, right? Mind you, I it took me what 2 times to get this test done, but I failed it. I remember my mom picking me up and was like, "It's okay, son. I got pound cake at home." I was like, "I can't eat that,
Duh.
right? And that realization was like she was sad about it, but it was, the aspect is she doesn't know what else to do.
Yeah, and she's so used to doing that for you. That's her norm, is
Hmm.
that she's showing her love with food.
Hmm.
Why, Dee, do you experience the same when it comes to, well, you said, yeah, like your
Mhm.
friends, like they know you as Dee who was this weight. So is it still like a struggle, like trying to get people like, hey, don't show me love with food?
Yeah, it's like one of my best friends. He's one of those people. You ever have anybody in your life that like shoves food down your throat? Oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
so good. Try a piece, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll say no, and they're like, "No, eat it." And you're like, "No," and they like still pushing it towards your face. Trying to get people to understand that with weight loss surgery, it is a hard no. Like my stomach will not expand. I'm gonna throw up in your face if I
Wow.
eat this. Like I cannot. And with people with normal stomachs, like you can always have that extra bite. You can take two extra bites. With us, that one extra bite game over. Like, not only will it come back up, or it can get stuck in your throat, you feel sick, like you physically get ill after that. And so they don't understand just how impactful that extra bite and how detrimental that is to us. And so trying to convey that is really hard to put into words, because before I had the surgery, I had no concept of what this feels like and how strict and final it is.
Mhm.
And so to get someone who doesn't have that concept to understand it, it's very hard to put it into words where people can accept it.
And so what are your ways of thinking as far as the education on how to bring your family in?
Come to some of the meetings. There are support meetings for people to go to. Like I'm having a support group this coming Wednesday.
Is
'Cause-
it in Dallas?
yeah.
Go ahead and plug real quick. Go
Okay.
ahead.
It's at if Dr. Joe Cribben's um office. It's in Plano, Texas, actually.
And is this something that you're going to do reoccurring?
Yeah, once a month I'm gonna do a class or a support group, and it's always gonna be the third Wednesday of each month.
The third Wednesday of each month, we will have a support group for the bariatric community, and we will have your Instagram and your information on this podcast. So definitely, if this is something you're interested in, reach out to us. I'll make sure that we get the follow up.
Gotcha.
Okay, I love that. So, if you could sit down with the version of Corby who was battling depression after football, gained all this weight, got to the point where you had to do the surgery, what would you tell him?
Um, wow. I always get this question. I kind of fumble sometimes on it, but I have a specific answer.
Mhm.
Uh, no one's gonna save you.
Mm.
Nothing someone's gonna say is gonna save you. No, not an encouragement, nothing, because it's gonna feel good for the moment, but if you don't believe in yourself, it's worthless.
Wow. D, what would you say?
I would say everybody has had it wrong. You had it wrong, your mama had it wrong, the doctors had it wrong, and we're finally figuring it out. So forgive yourself. Stop beating yourself up for what you didn't know, for the life that you missed, and just start living now. And um, I don't know. I'm so much gentler with myself now, and I'm learning to still forgive myself for the evil, horrible things that I said to myself growing up as a kid, as a young adult. Um, I was just so abusive to myself. So it's just I would say I'm sorry.
Wow. I have an affirmation that I say, and it's around the lines of I forgive myself for doing the best that I could do with the information that I had. So not being upset about things that I did if I didn't know more than what I knew, because knowing that I would have made a different decision had I had the information, had I had the resources, and not it really is beating up on yourself and being so hard on yourself, and that self-love that we brought in your episode and a lot of my episodes you talk about that. Like Sabbath season is all about really being for you and doing things because you want to do it. What's going to make you feel the best? What's going to make you the happiest? Regardless of what everybody else is doing, regardless of the situation, regardless of whatever plan that everybody thinks that is like, it's really the journey that is less traveled.
Mhm.
I always say that one too. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. If you have any questions about bariatric community, bariatric surgery, please feel free to reach out to Corby or Dee. They're both in the Dallas community, very much advocates of this type of surgery. And we don't want to make it a taboo where people don't want to talk about it. It is a open conversation, and this is a safe environment. It is Sabbath season. I'm Ayana Faye. And we'll talk to you guys later. Sabbath season, the podcast.